What's up, guys? It's the Four Horsemen Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Josh Romine. Tonight we are recording our 50th episode, and we are all at Brent's house. So all four of us are here. What's up, guys?
Yay!
This is
so
easier.
exciting.
This is better than Google Hangout, right?
This is better. We're actually hanging out. It's normal hanging out.
Yeah, just hang out.
Just hang out. just your typical, like back in the olden days when our parents used to hang out.
Yes. So today was our home league draft extravaganza day. Started at about 11. We just wrapped up our last draft. Like I said earlier, it's our 50th episode, so we just wanted to get together, hang out, and do something fun. We decided that we're going to do a positional draft battle show. Essentially what we got is like 10 different battles of players that are similarly ranked in terms of ADP or like similar players, and we're just going to battle them out. Before we talk about that, hop on the Twitter, follow us, 4 Horsemen Pod. Galen sent us an email, 4horsemenpod@gmail.com. It is draft season, so I know you got questions. I know you guys need stuff answered, and we want to do that for you.
You know, at this point, since we have yet to get like a real question in our email or our Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you just want to know what our favorite color is,
Sure.
If you want to know, I mean, the guys are really into beer shares. They've been drinking beer all day, different kinds of beer,
Yes.
things like that. I chugged one of Romine's basically just to be an asshole. I can explain that. I had a really bad beer. What was that beer? That was super bad.
Oh, it was terrible.
What I had, it hurt my face. It was so bad.
Cone Crusher was the name of the
Cone Crusher.
was the name of the beer. Yes.
Yeah, it was
Cone
bad.
Crusher.
It tasted like crap.
It was. I mean, Cone Crusher. If you're listening and want to send us
That's
a
the
reason.
name of the beer. That's not the brewery.
Oh, okay.
And it's 18th Street, but 18th Street has really good beer. I don't want to discount anything I do.
Okay.
That was just one of their beers that wasn't
It just-
good.
No offense.
No offense, because I love 18th Street. It's one of my favorite breweries, and they have really good beer.
Unofficial sponsor.
Unofficial sponsor.
But that beer specifically was not. I didn't find.
Well, I'm now drinking Mountain Dew, and I have a beer in front of me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it has been a hell of a day.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really has.
we're sitting here. It's past 11. You know, you guys got here between 11 and 12. I got here right around noon,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean we've been going at it for 11 hours, and I mean it's been nonstop football.
And
so
oddly enough, I still want to talk about
yeah,
so.
exactly. Like I'm not even kidding. If somebody just said, "All right, you're never gonna make more than and it would adjust for inflation, but
Sure.
you'd make $40,000 a year for the rest of your life, adjusted for inflation, and it's never going to change, but you're going to constantly make that." I'd be like, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I wish that would just happen.
Like I
It'd
said,
be
today is my
fantastic.
Christmas. Like,
Yeah,
I love this day.
It's absolutely fantastic.
So what we want to do is just help you guys out. You'll be looking at your drafts, and you should see these players kind of going in the same areas. So we just want to talk about why we would take them over the other one, even though they're similar ranked. You guys just want to jump right into it?
Yeah,
Let's start right off my list. One that might not have the most hype, but if you're looking at like mid-round running backs, if you started out maybe a little more wide receiver heavy at the beginning, you could be looking at like a Rob Kelly versus Paul Perkins. Rob Kelly sitting on Fantasy Pros about the 91st overall player, running back 35. Paul Perkins, 78th overall, running back 31. Do either of those guys jump out at you as having like something that sets them apart from the other?
I mean, I don't know. I'm actually going to kind of direct this at Brent, because you seem to have had the most vocal reaction to both of these guys, because you've had times where you've been a Paul Perkins fan, and there have been times where you have absolutely hated Rob Kelly. So is your initial thing to Paul Perkins?
Initially, yes. I think with both of these guys, you should not reach for them ever.
Yeah,
Never
yeah.
reach for either of these guys, no matter. I mean, like you should not go early on these guys.
What would you consider reaching?
Oh gosh, I don't. I feel like 8th or 9th round is where you should be taking them.
In a 12-team league?
Yeah, in a 12-team league, and that's where kind of ADP is falling in place. But
Sure.
I wouldn't go much earlier. I mean, Paul Perkins, I think he's talented, but not like the most talented running back that's out there. I mean, I think he's thrust into the starting position with the New York Giants. The offense is going to be moving the ball, and there's not much behind Paul Perkins that's going to push him. So I feel like he's just thrust in as a starter and could be a capable fantasy starter for your team as well. Maybe a running back 3 if you're looking for a late round running back. On the opposite side, you have Rob Kelly. And I've been high on Samaje Perine, but he has not looked good in training camp. He's not looked good in the preseason so far. So I do think Rob Kelly is going to be the starter going into the season.
Yeah.
We'll see for how long, but right now he's at great value at the 9th, 10th round range.
Sure.
I mean, I think one of the problems that I have with Perkins is simply the fact that they're the anti-Cowboys. Like, it doesn't matter who you plug in, they're not going to be good. I mean, they have put so many players in the last couple of years in that position, and nobody has been able to do anything. And that is more concerning to me because their offense is kind of stagnant. Outside of Odell Beckham, they don't tend to get in rhythms. They haven't been a great team the last couple of years. And when I'm looking at Washington, I feel like there's more opportunity for the running game to be opened up and Rob Kelly to maybe not be consistent, but have more games that he could go over 100 yards or get a touchdown or 2. Whereas I think that Paul Perkins might be a better running back, but I think the team and how they utilize the running game hinders him to a point that I think that Rob Kelly is slightly better. Like that, I think that, sure. I don't know.
I just worry that they're going to be trying to see what Samaje Perine provides for that offense at some point. So I think what you're drafting Rob Kelly for right now is for probably the first half of the season actually being a solid starter for you as a running back 3. But I don't think he holds on to the job past that, though. I feel like they're going to be working in their rookie. They invested in him, and Rob Kelly is great where he's going right now if you're looking at a late-round running back.
Is he kind of like the type of guy that you'd be going for if you have a player like Zeke or a player like Doug Martin, since you know that he's going to be kind of the guy in the beginning?
Yeah, because if you're missing games from your quality starter, you got to wait for him to come back. Jaquiz Rogers and Rob Kelly, those kind of guys are going to tide you through that period. And maybe they don't work out, but there's going to be guys out there that can get you through that.
But you're not breaking the bank to have them, and that's the point. Is that you can get these guys at an extreme value, while I mean, Doug Martin's not going expensive, but especially if you have Zeke, who is extremely expensive, either in an auction system or in your draft. I mean, you're still investing at the bottom of the barrel. You're investing a second round pick still in Zeke.
Sure. Kind of like what you were talking about, Brent. Like, Paul Perkins has the job. Like, McAdoo gave it to him back in May. He's had it for a long time. Yeah. Do you think he could possibly just be comfortable with knowing that he's a starter, not push himself as hard?
But that's the thing. Like, they started utilizing him late last season when Rashad Jennings was out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looked good with that offense, and he's a 3-down running back. He's got the skill set to catch the ball, especially catch the ball, and that's what they do is they pass the ball in New York.
Yeah.
So I do see the upside for a 3-down running back in a system that's probably going to be moving the ball more times than not. And that's why I would choose Paul Perkins.
Perkins is probably safer.
Yes.
You don't see Wayne Gallum really pushing him. He's more of the pass catcher back that they, as they would see him. So I don't know if they would really push him to be out of a job like you have P. Ryan kind of pushing.
Sure. Well, and then I think that's one of the things is that Rob Kelly doesn't quite have that pass catching skill set that Paul Perkins has. So I can see where you're coming from in that, because you can lead. Perkins is going to be on the field more often than Rob Kelly is, because I mean, even outside of P. Ryan, is that you've also got Chris Thompson that could come in and spell as well. So
Sure.
I mean, it is a little bit crowded.
I mean,
in Washington.
Should we not forget about Matt Jones?
No, we should.
Yes,
We should.
we should forget about Matt
You
Jones.
can forget about him, but the Giants still have Shane Vereen too, who catch passes out of the back.
Well, they have
Yeah,
Darkwa too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I had a 2-week period where I was a huge Darkwa fan.
I mean, Orleans
I was like,
Darkwa
yes.
is like an awesome name.
It's
Yes.
an
Oh
awesome
my
name.
gosh.
Orleans.
Orleans Darkwa. It's
It's
amazing.
badass. All right.
It's like Storm Johnson.
It's gonna
You
be
just
my-
wanted him to be good just because of the name.
That's my next child's name.
Okay, we're holding you to that.
Yeah.
Everybody, you heard it here first.
Yep. Storm
All right.
Johnson.
Let's talk about a couple wide receivers. We changed this one up a little bit from what we were originally thinking. We want to go Devontae Parker versus Corey Coleman. We're talking 110 overall, wide receiver 41 for Parker, 117 overall, wide receiver 44 for Coleman. Really close, within 7 spots. Van Cleve, looking at those two guys.
What jumps out to me is I guess looking at that, because you hear a lot more about Devontae Parker versus Corey Coleman, and to see that their ADPs going closely together. I think that because of last year how Devontae Parker performed, I think he's fallen quite heavily. You know, he's getting a lot of praise coming out of training camp, and you see him in preseason, and even Jay Cutler is now talking him up and stuff. He might be climbing boards slightly here, so I think you're hearing more about him. And so, to me, it was kind of shocking to hear those ADPs close together. So, I would say that you have a little bit better of an offense in Miami, and so Parker would be kind of, you know, they're going to be run the ball heavy with the JI, and then they have Jarvis to help out with the coverage to take off of Parker. So I think Parker has a better upside. But Cleveland is going to be passing. And they're going to be passing a lot. Corey Coleman can get down the field. You've seen him have the speed and have those big plays, but that also kind of scared me though too, because is he going to be that kind of big play kind of guy?
Sure.
And that's all you can rely on him.
But the thing with Coleman that worries me so much is the guy can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean,
constantly.
He was injured in training camp last year and barely got onto the field in preseason, and then he was hurt all year long sporadically, and he just couldn't stay on the field. You've seen flashes, but it's just not a consistent factor with him. I don't think.
Let's also remember though, we have a wide receiver killer. Brock Osweiler is on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins could play with Brian Hoyer and look amazing. Look like
In our rookie draft today, Alex took Kaiser as the number 1 quarterback of everybody.
I love him. I think he's great.
And here's the thing: is that even if Brockzilla starts out the season, it's borrowed time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's borrowed time, and I feel right now like I did about Cleveland this time last year again.
Yeah.
And
I think we always will.
2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm done with Cleveland. I'm sick of them. I can't stand them. Now I'm just like, this is a sexy team again.
It could happen.
This
It'll be juicy.
And I mean, I'm still not a Crowell fan, but it because I'm seeing these pieces starting to fit together. I could see a situation where Crowell does well because the offense is clicking, and so I think that some of those things aren't out of the question anymore because I think they actually did get a good quality quarterback.
Yeah, and Kaiser has that kind of the upside or big play kind of that big plays. You saw him when he did at the end of the game to win the game with that pass. He did the same thing when he was in college, when he first started his first game too. So you kind of excites you. Kind of gets some ignites that I can't even say the word ignites. Yeah,
Ignites.
Whatever, you know, it
Ignites.
lights a fire in that offense and kind of really gets you excited.
I just think he's a big play guy. I think he has a skill set to be a great wide receiver, but he just can't stay on the field, and that's what worries me. I think Kenny Britt being there is going to be more of a fantasy factor than Corey Coleman.
Yeah.
I think Corey Coleman has the way bigger upside, clearly, but Kenny Britt will have a more consistent fantasy factor for
Could
him.
you say the same about the Miami offense? Because Jarvis Landry is more the kind of the possessions kind of type of guy.
And
Devontae
it's
Parker could be more
similar,
the big
but
player
it's
guy.
not similar. Like Kenny Britt and Jarvis Landry. Like Jarvis Landry is going to be the PPR guy. He's going in what, the 4th round?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're saying the
round?
most consistent guy. I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
Jarvis Landry's that same kind of guy.
But I feel like the offense is just much better. I can't say much better, but
I think it's got more. They've got more of a talented.
Okay, here's what it
around
is.
them.
We've seen Tannehill. We've seen what he can do, and more than not, we've seen what he can't do.
Yeah.
But they bring in a guy like Jay Cutler, who is a gunslinger. The guy can throw a bomb, and he's already gone out and said that he loves Devontae Parker. He's a faster version of Alshon Jeffrey, and clearly Jay Cutler loved Alshon Jeffrey in Chicago.
Yep.
So what I'm thinking now is, okay, what's a better version of Alshon Jeffrey? Devontae Parker, that upside, that big play. He can catch the ball. He can be that possession guy, a big play guy, a touchdown guy. Like I'm putting that all together with a better quarterback than Tannehill and Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me excited, way more excited for Devontae Parker over Corey Coleman.
It's one of those things, though, when you think about it, that some of these teams have a starting, like, quote-unquote, entrenched quarterback, and there can be a guy that is sitting on his couch that can come in and make the team more interesting and better. Like, I almost think the same thing. Like, I wanted Cutler to go to Miami, but do I think that Kaepernick is better than Tannehill? Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it was just like the perfect storm for Cutler, though. Because he's been with Gase. He's had success with Gase.
100%. That's what I wanted. But it's just weird that some of these teams get so entrenched with the Bortles is another situation where, like, okay, well, if are there some like let's say I don't know, like Tony Romo, or for some reason to get like that would be a better situation. Or there are so many quarterbacks.
Kaepernick would even be better than
Bortles.
I
mean. And there's just so many of these, like, quote unquote entrenched quarterbacks that really should not be very entrenched.
No, they shouldn't. I think I don't know if it's pride thing or not, because they spent so much with Bortles. They don't want to give up on him so easy. Which I get.
With Tannehill.
I get, because you invest so much in him, you don't want to give up on him.
But the worst part, and like not to completely go on a tangent, but that's what like Philadelphia did a couple of times in like the early 2000s. Like Todd Pinkston, like they would get rid of guys that were 3rd, 4th, 5th round draft picks that were better than these like 1st round draft picks, because we invested our 1st round draft pick, but this player is better. Like that doesn't make any sense. It is a pride thing. Yeah. So
is that what his name was? Freddie Mitchell.
Freddie Mitchell. Fred X. Yeah.
Jason Avant.
But Jason Avant was a perfect example of like a 3rd or 4th round guy that hung around forever because he was good. But James Thrash was better than Todd Pinkston, but they shipped James Thrash out because they needed to get rid of somebody, so they kept their 1st rounder, who eventually went on to not play for another team.
Sure. And I think this whole battle between Corey Coleman and Devontae Parker, it just comes down to the quarterback. You bring in Cutler, I think Devontae Parker edges it out.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at that in the draft, honestly, I think Devontae Parker has a higher floor and a higher ceiling than Corey Coleman. So I think it's a pretty easy decision. All right, well, let's move on to our next one. We've got Jameis Winston versus Marcus Mariota. That's the 75th overall, quarterback 8 for Winston, versus 81 overall, quarterback 10. Really close, within 6 picks. One quarterback in between them, both in their same year. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have been compared kind of ever since they were rookies. Who would you guys rather have?
I like both guys. It's so hard to choose, but it almost comes down to I look at the stats and I look at the game tape and all that, and Winston makes a lot of mistakes. He can be an inaccurate quarterback, but he's got so much talent. He's got one of the best wide receivers out there, and the fantasy upside for Jameis Winston is astronomical. He could finish as a top 5 quarterback for you, and you're getting him, in the mid to late rounds, and that's great. Mariota, you could almost say the same thing, except they're just such a run-oriented team. And I think that's where it just leans slightly towards Winston, unfortunately. Like, I love Mariota, and me personally, I would probably draft Mariota over Winston, and I probably shouldn't, but I just like Mariota because of his rushing ability, his limits on mistakes. You know, Winston over the course of a season could throw 6-7 more interceptions than Mariota will, and that is a fantasy factor that you have to consider season long. But on a week-to-week basis, I do think that I love both guys. I squeak out Mariota slightly just because of the rushing.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we've talked on their podcast. Like, I think we like Winston more than Mariota. I think that's pretty clear. We've all said that before. Mm-hmm. Let me throw something else at you, Van Cleve. Do you think maybe with the Hard Knocks hype now, with Tampa Bay being on there, you kind of see those players rise a little bit just in ADP because they're guys that people know. People are going to see Jameis Winston being on TV, being a good leader, like being relatable.
That's a very, very, very real thing. Actually, I got cut up into it. Like when I first started watching Hard Knocks, like, oh, I love this team. You know, the Jets and stuff like that. He's like, oh, you get excited about these players. You start watching them. You're like, oh, they're looking good. They're looking good. They're talking about them in preseason. They're talking them up and stuff. Yeah. It's very real to get caught up in that. Not to say that they have a lot of great talent on that team. And I actually become more and more a believer of Marcus Mariota this year than I have in the past. Like, because they were a very run-heavy team, like you were saying. Didn't know how he was going to fit in that system because of the style of play that Mariota has, but they fit the system nicely around him. Mm-hmm. And like when we played our stats game of who I am and stuff, I had Marcus Mariota, and like I couldn't believe the stats that I found of like how effective he was in the red zone, you know, within 20 and 10 yards. And so it's those kind of numbers that kind of like, whoa, you know, I got to take a second look at this quarterback. And so you can't go wrong, I think, with any of these quarterbacks. I think with the addition of Corey Davis, and if he can become that elite wide receiver like that he's supposed to, I think that could be a deadly kind of combination. And I really think that would be nice, especially complemented with that run game. Really, like I said, either quarterback you can't go wrong with. But know that Jameis Winston has one of the best receivers in the game right now. And that's something you don't discount because he gets a lot of receptions and he does a lot for Jameis Winston, especially touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I think for whatever reason, I put Winston ahead maybe more so than even you guys are saying. Like, there's something to me about Jameis Winston that, and I don't know if it's I like the fact that he has gone from epic douchebag to like a normal human being, or what it is. I'm not 100% sure.
It's like a psychological thing.
Yeah, it's like well, I mean, Brandon Marshall's another one of those guys. Like, you like him because he was like just this complete idiot that was basically ready to screw up his life, and then was like, okay, I need to stop, and then it turned things around.
He used to be a T.O., and now he's a Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
not post. Remember, he's like,
no. But I mean, I think that I think that Winston, now he isn't going to be rushing like Mariota is, but I think that he has the ability to be up in those, mid to like 4,000-yard seasons coming up here shortly. And like you said, I mean, Mike Evans is just a phenomenal wide receiver.
He's a beast.
And I am every day thinking more and more that he's going to finish as number one. I mean, and I love Corey Davis. I hardly ever watch college football until it starts to matter toward the end, where you're like, but he was one of the only players that I was like keeping tabs on because I really liked him. So I'm excited to see him, but at the same time, still more of a running team, things like that. So I still have Winston above him just because of those.
Sure, and I agree with that. But say those ADPs start to slip a little bit, and like Jameis is moving up a little bit more, and Mariota's moving back a little bit. Like, are you okay with people reaching up just a little bit to grab Jameson? You think that he's that much of a difference maker?
I just think that he possesses something, and I mean, there's also the kind of fear for me. Any as an Eagles fan, I watched in horror as, Randall Cunningham, a scrambling quarterback, got beat the crap up. McNabb getting completely beat up on, so for 20 years, I've watched these rushing quarterbacks, usually have 1 or 2 seasons every 3 to 5 seasons end in a rough way.
Yeah.
And that's always an unnerving thing. Michael Vick, another, quarterback that the Eagles have had, so I have grown up scared of rushing quarterbacks because of that. I love rushing quarterbacks, but it also scares me from a fantasy perspective because they do get hurt more often.
Well, let's not forget, he did injure himself last year. So so it's a very real thing that you have to watch out for. I guess it depends. We've all talked about taking a quarterback too early.
Yeah.
But I think Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota, especially Jameis Winston, is one of those quarterbacks that you can wait on.
It's like they're in a sweet spot.
People take Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck.
I was gonna say if Rodgers, Breeze, Brady are all off the board, I think it's okay to start looking at Winston.
And when you break the point totals down of how much more points like those other players are going to get on average, they're not going to be that much higher.
Nope. The difference between that versus what you could draft at that position.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So let's we like Winston more Mariota. I think he's the winner there for us. Let's talk about let's talk about a couple rookies though. I want to talk Fournette versus Mixon because the more that this goes on, the more real this conversation is. It was not just in rookie drafts now, but your regular redraft leagues.
Yeah,
you're looking at these two guys as second, third round players. Right now, Fournette is the 19th overall, running back 10 versus Mixon, who's 36th overall. Running back 16, but that is kind of moving up.
Yeah, like that ADP is almost. I don't know the right terminology for it, like right off the top of my head, but it's almost a pointless statistic at this point because you look at that and it's like people are now they're reaching, they're seeing what he's doing on the field in preseason, and it's like okay. He's the opposite of P. Ryan right now because this is what we were told Mixon could do, and he's doing exactly what they said he was going to be able to do. And so when you see that, the only reason that he was, at least some distance behind was because Fournette was right there. Okay, he's basically entrenched already, and Mixon was still kind of we don't know what to expect. Then it plays out, and then you've got him. And I think he just has a little bit more of the complete package to me. And I have to say that Fournette's weight still concerns me.
Yeah.
Eventually, when you're 21, maybe you can carry that weight. At 25, are you going to be able to carry that weight? I don't know.
And him dealing with that foot issue again, I mean, it's something that's kind of bugged him in the past. And I know, Van Cleve, you talked about how that was one of your biggest concerns were those injuries now.
Yeah, that was – so this was a real scenario for me today, actually, before our draft because we have a rookie draft, and so it was came down to Fournette or Mixon. And actually, to be quite honest, for the longest time, even before even knowing where Fournette was going to go in the NFL draft, I was like, "Oh, Fournette all the way." He's a clear stud and he's a clear running back, and so it was there for the longest time. And honestly, not till the past couple of weeks where you're starting to see this, and then you see Fournette get hurt, and then him having those past injuries in college really shook me up and really scared me. So it came down to me either me choosing Fournette or Mixon, and I actually went with Mixon today just because of what I think he could be as an NFL player with being a complete package in the comparisons he's drawing. It's only one preseason game, so there's a lot of hype behind it. I get that. I was trying to make sure that I wasn't necessarily reading into all of that game, but really, I was trying to look at scouting reports and stuff like that to really kind of make a good judgment on what kind of a player he's going to be in the future. So right now with Fournette's going like early in the draft, like you said, and Mixon's kind of going there, and they're kind of far apart. But they're really, if you think about it, as far as rookies, running backs go, they're kind of close together.
Yeah, they're probably about a round apart.
I mean, they're so similar. Like both guys just have the talent to do it. Like these guys are NFL caliber running backs already. The problem with this is they just haven't named Mixon the starter. So there's that little there's just that little thing in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, is he gonna be? But everybody flat out knows he is because Jeremy fucking Hill is in front of him.
Well, we understand that, but like tonight's preseason game,
click that button. Don't forget, BC. You got to click that button. Usually it's me. Usually it's me.
Eventually, I'm gonna have him start editing it out. I'm trying to work on getting those.
But I'm just saying though, like that Jeremy Hill tonight actually had a good outing.
A good outing.
I mean, compared to Mixon, I should say. So that stuff like that that's going to just kind of scare you.
What's a good outing though? That could be considered so many different things. Was it because a linebacker hit the wrong hole, so all of a sudden Jeremy Hill has an easy 14-yard gain, or is it because Jeremy Hill's talented? No.
Yeah.
Jeremy Hill couldn't. He showed it in his first season, but then he just tailspin downward, and you just don't know what happened. I don't think he's that good of a running back.
Well, okay, just like what you said, it's like, okay, could it have been that there was a third string defensive tackle that was plugging that hole because there were injuries or I think one thing is that, if you see what you're expecting to see from a player in the preseason, you start saying, okay, that checks the box. When you see things that don't make sense, you dig into it a little bit more. And the fact is that Jeremy Hill having one big run that looks great, you assume there was something that went wrong in that coverage. If he starts doing that constantly, okay, then you start making a note of it. One time, I'm not going to start changing my mind about Jeremy Hill.
I mean, he was only 6 rushes for 28 yards.
Yeah.
He had one 11-yard run.
So
yeah. So I mean,
that's 11 yards. That's how low our expectations are of Jeremy Hill.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, when people are going to read the box scores, we want to make sure that we let them know that, like, they could be like, well, then put more doubts on him to keep mixing like kind of that at bay like there. But I mean, know that he's a if he wouldn't have had the off-field issues, he would be
were several years ago too.
He would be in all off-field reports. Like everybody that knows this guy say he's like this fantastic guy to talk to. He's just he does stuff for the community and things like that around his college hometown. But and then there's just this one incident that just hangs over his head, and
which was awful.
It was awful, but some people, I mean,
at some point, you have to, and playing football and what kind of person you are, two completely different things. But I think that kind of the same thing with Winston. It's like Class A douchebag kind of makes right, and I think that's kind of what you're hoping to see from Mixon.
Yeah, and fantasy-wise, with these two guys and with me especially, I think both these guys are the best running backs in this class. And one guy in Fournette is the entrenched starter, like Alex was saying. So I think he is going that round above Mixon because of that. Like he is the starter in Jacksonville. And then you have – and so I think more immediate upside value is Fournette. But then you have Mixon, who I think is the more talented running back. He's got that theoretical kind of upside. There's upside there, but there's that theoretical starter upside. Yeah. That's why he's going around behind Fournette. But so it's one of those things. Do you want immediate points right now with Fournette, or do you want points maybe 4 weeks into the season?
Yeah.
But elite points with Mixon.
And that's important. Like that's an important thing to look at. And I think that's one thing that people that are getting scared off by, Zeke being suspended, are missing out, because if you're letting Ezekiel Elliott creep into the middle of the second round because of a few games, okay, you know what? You could go 0-4 and then run the table the rest of the year, and it didn't matter. Yep. And there's all these people in front that they're looking at that and saying, "Oh, I should have."
I mean, if you're just going to draft a team and not touch it again, yeah, that should worry you.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a fancy thing called the waiver wire.
Yeah.
If you know anything about fantasy football, you should be active on. Anyways, you're going to find a player. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to drop somebody off of your team for somebody that's doing well at the beginning. People don't want to be the guy that reaches out there and I get made fun of a lot because I'm all on a player when he does one thing good. Is helped me a lot in free agency though. Like when the regular season comes, I'm not afraid to jump on a player. And yeah, I miss sometimes. I hit sometimes too.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that especially with the waiver wire, like when you're grabbing a player, like you're usually getting rid of a player that's garbage.
Right.
So exactly. I mean, like you might be trading garbage for garbage, or you might be trading garbage for David Johnson.
Yes.
Devontae Freeman.
Michael Thomas last year.
Thomas. Like that. So, you know,
every year there are players that are going to show up that aren't getting drafted or getting drafted late, might get dropped, and then you can pick back up. It's just you got to be aware, and you got to be okay taking chances, and I'm fine with that. So if I'm looking back to the Fournette versus Mixon deal, I'm probably letting Fournette go to somebody else and trying to get Mixon around later if it's me. You know, play out your league mates, talk to them, see where they're thinking. A lot of people with your redrafts are going to push those guys, you know, a little more up in your draft instead of, you know, the earlier rounds. So maybe you get a deal on them. If Mixon's there in the fourth, late third, pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another group of running backs, though. Carlos Hyde versus Isaiah Crowell. Carlos Hyde's 37th overall player, running back 17. Crowell's 30th overall, running back 14. Hyde had a lot of hate early on this season with Joe Williams coming in, with San Francisco having a new regime, saying that he wasn't really a fit for their system. That anti-hype, maybe, I don't know, hate, has kind of fallen by the wayside now.
Negativity.
The negativity surrounding
publicity
him has kind of started to evaporate. Yep. So what are your guys' feelings on these two?
I feel like I've been a Hyde supporter this whole time. I've always been saying that Joe Williams was the hype that I wasn't buying.
Yep.
And it's coming to fruition now that Hyde is coming in shape. He switched up his training regimen, from OTAs to training camp, and he came in just freaking jacked. Like, he lost some weight. He's going to be a lot quicker. He's fighting for his job. He realizes they drafted a running back.
But the thing is that he has been a home run hitter.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is that he explodes when he hits a home run. he literally just shatters when he and that's the thing that honestly, that's the reason what leads to hype. If he's not getting hurt, we're not having this discussion because he is that kind of player. He is a top 10 caliber running back, but the problem is that he can't stay on the field long enough to become a top 10 running back. Right. And so I think that's the biggest issue with him. And I don't like Crowell as far as a home run hitter, but his consistency, his ability to stay on the field puts him at a place where you're really playing to how you're building your team. Are you comfortable with having a guy like Hyde that might only play 10 games and could win you those 10 games? Or are you more comfortable having a consistent number across the board and knowing that game in and game out you're going to have a guy? And I think that's kind of where I have a hard time grabbing that kind of boring guy. I usually want a guy that's going to, go big, but at the same time, I also like consistency. And so what do you guys when you look at these two guys, what do you see? Would you rather have Carlos Hyde for 10 games?
I mean, both these offenses suck.
Yeah.
So,
which is scary. Which is scary for run games. I mean, that's always.
I mean, I had Hyde last year, and it was just so frustrating because you see him just flashes of huge games, and you got so excited, like, all right, this is the year, and then he get out with an injury.
The guy could come back off 130 yards easily in a game.
And then he come back and then have a mediocre game, because it's still not 100% from the injury and stuff. He's got the talent, which is so frustrating because you want to see him do so well, and you could think that he could be one of those elite guys if he just stays healthy. But that is a tough one because it's either have him for 10 games or have Isaiah Crowell for 16. And
is it because they're bad that he has these? I mean, he might be brittle, but is it because they can just sit there and wait for him? And even though he has a tendency to be able to break free and run for these big amounts, he's just taking such a beating because there's nothing to pull coverage away from him.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. Another thing is that in Cleveland, you have, not elite by any stretch of the matter. This isn't Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, but you still have Duke Johnson that takes Crowell off the field. And so that's problematic.
Maybe not this year. I don't know.
We'll see.
They are talking all about moving Duke to the slot.
I don't know. I mean, they were talking about Andre Ellington doing that, and then 20 minutes later they're like, "Yeah, we don't like that."
That's going to be a tough call. I guess if you're looking for higher upside, I think you have Carlos Hyde. If you're looking to be more consistent, I think you have to go with Isaiah Crowell.
I don't even know if consistent is the right word. It's safer. I'd say
it's a safer pick. Yeah, just consistent on what I mean by, like, you can count on him game in and game out that he's going to play.
Sure.
And he's going to get fancy points.
Right.
Not saying it's big because when Carlos Hyde, because you can hit that big game. I mean, let's not forget that he did like 168 yards in one game and stuff. Mm-hmm. So Carlos Hyde has that ability to run, and he's done it in multiple games. I mean,
Crowell has that ability too.
Who are you more comfortable starting? If you had to start him against a good defense, a bad defense, like who do you want to start on a weekly basis? And I've seen Crowell put up consistent 30 yards or less games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he can go big too.
In the middle of last season,
I feel like he can't go as big though.
Well, I think Hyde has a much bigger ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel more comfortable with Hyde, even though Hyde is going a little bit less in drafts.
I almost feel like their floor is the same too. Like they both have this, like,
it's based on their offenses and defenses.
They have a floor of like 38 yards. But
I mean, I think Hyde has a floor of injured, missing half the season.
Okay, true. Okay, that's true. True. Yeah, I mean, you're right. But like, I guess that's where you're weighing your options.
And I really you have to take a look at how you think that Cleveland's game scripts are going to go this year. If you're of the mindset that Cleveland is going to play better football this year, then you should think that Crowell is going to take a step forward. Like you said, Brent, last year he had a stretch of 8 games where right in the middle of the season, so right in prime fantasy football time, where
you couldn't start him.
7 out of 8 weeks, he scored he had less than 44 yards rushing.
Yeah. I mean,
not good. Dreadful. Only had 2 touchdowns in that period too.
Yeah.
Not startable.
No, that's terrible.
But when Hyde was on the field, you could start him was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I mean, he only played. He played 13. Carlos Hyde played 13 games last year.
Which is weird. Honestly, if you asked me how many games he played, I'd be like 8.
Right.
Like, you didn't hear much.
But some of those games he only had, there was one game he played 14 yards, but that was because he got injured.
Yeah.
And so
and that's the thing. Like, box scores looking at him are kind of hard sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't know exactly.
Because you don't know, but he had injuries throughout those games or something. Something was lingering with that.
The other nice thing about Crowell, though, too, is he was underrated with the passing game. He actually caught a ton of balls last year.
40.
Even
40
with
catches.
Duke Johnson behind him. And Duke Johnson almost led all running backs with catches.
And that's what you'd be hoping if he's not going to get as many catches out of the back.
They're throwing the ball to the running backs in Cleveland.
But I mean, Carlos Hyde didn't have that many targets when he was in San Francisco as far as receiving goes. And his touchdowns, was it week 5, he had 0 touchdowns.
The rest of the season.
Ooh. The rest of the time he played.
But that's another thing, is that there's just a terrible team.
Yeah. So
they had no passing game. There was no way to move the ball.
So I mean, at that point, you may want to look and go with Crowell because he has that passing game.
I mean, San Francisco should be better this year in theory.
In theory, but so should Cleveland.
I think I like Hyde, but if I'm looking at those two teams, and it might just almost be one of those things like I should stop thinking this, but I like what Cleveland's been doing.
Right.
Like Cleveland feels like it's on a faster pace to getting somewhere.
Since Harbaugh left, it felt like just San Francisco just took a downward dump.
Like
they didn't take a spiral.
It kind of feels like what's going on in Buffalo right now. It's just like they were like, you know what, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, and they weren't even that bad. Like they had pieces, and then all of a sudden they just
all the defense players retired,
just gone.
I mean, you like to see this new regime that came in. They're looking, trying to they had a great first round draft pick. Great first round picks. I think with what they did, and so I think they're turning things around. If they can progress and get that offense better, you'll get more wide receivers. Maybe get a quarterback in there that's going to be able to get them where they need to go. I think they can see them turning it around. So we'll see, but I mean, I don't know.
So I think if you're looking at these two players in your fantasy draft, it gets to that point, or it's the end of the third round, and you're looking turning. Pick which team you think is going to have the better offense. Go with that running back.
After talking it out, I think Corral. I think that you should.
I don't know. I still go Hyde.
I still think Hyde too. Like
it's just that upside. Like
you've seen the
upside. I crave it.
Yeah.
I want that.
I guess, but it also depends on where you have your other positions. Do you have another running back?
Yeah.
Do you have a number one that you can? Okay, I can take a Corral or
But if you have a running back there and you have to choose one of the two,
I'm probably going to be your number two, and maybe in a dreadful situation, he's your number one.
I think there's a lot of teams that are drafting those guys as their number one.
Yeah.
If somebody's starting off their draft with,
if your number one is getting 30 yards.
Yeah,
that's horrifying.
You're not hoping for 30 yards, and that's what I'm saying. If you're looking and you feel comfortable with it, then take one of those guys. But a lot of times, I think you're ending up more with a Mixon type. If you're looking at that situation, then you need upside.
Oh yeah,
taking a Mixon over those two.
Absolutely.
So, in the case where you're drafting your number one running back, I think we're of the mindset where we don't mind drafting running backs early.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're your LaShawn McCoy owners. We're the guys that are drafting, McCoy right there, Melvin Gordon at the end of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna feel a lot better if I have one of them under my wing and I'm coming back with a Crowell or a Hyde.
Absolutely.
So I'm fine with you taking either one of them. If I had to choose right now, I would probably choose Crowell just because I've talked a lot about him. I think he's good. Probably means he's gonna get injured next week, but let's hope not. Moving on to our next one, I've got Jordy Nelson versus Michael Thomas. These guys are real close. We kind of talked about before the show, and some guys said it was kind of a no-brainer going with Jordy Nelson. He's been around. He's done it. He's been the number one overall wide receiver. He's the 13th overall ranked player right now, wide receiver 6. Michael Thomas is 16th overall, wide receiver 7. It's the old man versus the new guy. So. Who you guys got?
I would say that that was one of those players, or one of those guys that says just Jordy Nelson. There's no question about that because I've seen what Jordy Nelson can do versus Michael Thomas. You now have Michael Thomas who is the man there. There's no Brandon Cooks. Yes, there's Willie Snead, but Willie Snead it's a good number 2. He's not your main guy. Michael Thomas is that dominant guy who's a big threat. I still feel a little bit uncomfortable because don't know what he can do versus Jordy Nelson because we've seen Jordy Nelson be the top wide receiver in this league and do it multiple years. And I'm of the philosophy of going with Jordy Nelson, seeing what he's doing, been coming back from that injury and being that productive the next year. I still like Jordy Nelson at that point just because I know I can count on him, or I feel that I can count on him versus Michael Thomas, I guess I should say. Michael Thomas is kind of new and exciting, but New Orleans also likes to divvy up the ball quite often.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I think that Green Bay divvies up the ball quite a bit too. The one thing that I would say is a little bit different, and I am 100%. Last year I was a big naysayer about drafting, Saints players that aren't Drew Brees, to be completely honest. But there is something when I've looked at some game footage, I've looked at highlights and things. Michael Thomas just looks good. Like, he just looks really good. And I think that maybe they finally have kind of found their, replacement for Colston. Mm-hmm. Like that big guy that can take the football and, get 10 to 12 touchdowns and also go for over 1,000 yards, because their offense is capable of that. And also maybe not be like a PPR monster, but still be better than what Cooks was, which was, he would get 2 or 3 catches and he would either have 30 yards or 130 yards,
right.
So I think that he's going to be more consistent. I think that they've kind of created a situation by getting rid of Cooks that is kind of isolated him and said, okay, you're the guy here. And so that's why I am starting to lean toward that, just because Nelson, he does have a tendency to get hurt. He has an injury risk, and he's getting older, so that injury risk is only going to increase. And there are quite a few mouths to feed in Green Bay now, and it almost seems like they are poising Michael Thomas to be the guy in New Orleans.
Yeah, and the thing with Jordy is you've seen him be that number 1 wide receiver before. I think we still, if Jordy Nelson's on the field, he has the capability to be the best wide receiver in the game. We don't know if Michael Thomas has that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you got to be real.
The one thing also is that depending on how your league is set up and how the people are in your league, I feel like you can get Thomas at a better value than you can get Jordy Nelson because of the consistency thing. Jordy Nelson, is more expensive in auction leagues and is going, a little bit higher. And depending on how your draft shakes out, I think you might be able to use that value to your advantage. And I think you could end up getting just the same numbers in the end.
Yeah. Brent?
I don't see any scenario where I would actually draft Michael Thomas over Jordy Nelson. Like, the receptions.
Are you making that decision? Like, is it him or?
It's really close.
Yeah, it's close.
I think a lot of times what's going to be, though, is at the end of the first round that, if you're the 11th or 12th team drafting, you're going to take him, and more likely you're doubling up on him. But it's possible where they could go back to back.
Yeah.
You don't really have to necessarily choose. I don't know. I guess you kind of do. I
just think that receptions, yards, touchdowns at all sides of Jordy Nelson. I know Michael Thomas has Drew Brees throwing him the ball, but Jordy Nelson has the best quarterback in the game, who's still, in his prime.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball, and he's consistently making fantasy factors out of all wide receivers. Drew Brees spreads around the ball to the point where multiple guys might be consistently, but not elite.
Sure.
So, what they did kind of last year.
He turned Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb into wide receiver 2s.
Still could be too. You never know.
So I still think Jordy Nelson is his main target. It's who he looks for. It's his it's a safety blanket, honestly, and that's why I think Jordy Nelson should still be drafted.
Yeah,
every time.
Are you not worried about his injury history and the fact that, because I understand that we've seen when healthy, him being consistent, and it might just be I am putting on rose-colored glasses on this one guy for some reason, but I just see 12 touchdowns in my head.
Yeah,
I just do, and I just look at him. I'm like,
he's a boss.
I think that he's he's going to be a really good wide receiver. And I completely understand that you're basically taking a risk that you're not getting tremendous value out of, because I guess if they're going that close, if you're making that decision, I understand. But there's just something about him that
he's a big dominant receiver that is going to be great for red zone targets. They really don't have Kobe Fleener's not that guy. Because Jimmy Graham was. You know, Marcus Colston before that was.
Yeah. Kobe Fleener's not Jimmy Graham.
No,
and Kobe Fleener isn't anything.
No,
really.
So that red zone presence is coming from Michael Thomas. So I can absolutely see him getting those touchdowns, which is great for his value then. But like I said, it's just hard to just pass up on Jordy Nelson.
Even a bad game for Jordy is still 2 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown. He's still getting the touchdowns on his bad games. So
you're right. I mean, he's 14, 13. I mean, with a season.
And as far as the injury history, he has injuries. I get it, but what I saw last year, coming back from an ACL injury, the guy was a boss last year.
Well, and Brent, you asked if people are really left with that choice, one or the other. I think that a lot of times it's your guys that are about drafting youth and that value youth a lot higher. I think they could be looking at that. What we're saying is, if you're looking at that decision, don't overthink it. Go Jordy Nelson. Don't be stupid. You could possibly get both of them on your team, which I'd be okay with.
I mean, that would be fantastic. But I could see you
take Jordy Nelson,
25 to 30 touchdowns in between those two guys.
Relish in the fact that you have a wide receiver 1 with the potential to finish here as the best wide receiver. Well, let's move on to our next one. A couple running backs here from the same team, actually. This is one that Alex was pretty excited to talk about. We got Mark Ingram versus Adrian Peterson. That's the running back 22, 53rd overall player, Mark Ingram, versus Adrian Peterson, the number 67 overall player, 26th running back.
This is the worst running back situation in football.
Yeah? Worst as in hardest to do?
Worse as in I don't know which one is valued higher.
Sure.
I don't know which one is going to get more carries. I don't know which one is going to start the season, finish the season, in the middle of the season. I have no idea.
I mean, you don't know, and I don't think the Saints know either.
It's
hopefully they have an idea.
It's one of those things okay, you're
3 running back set.
You've got Ingram that he's shown flashes, but I think we all kind of know what he is baseline. And then you have a guy who is the best running back in our generation.
Sure.
And 2 years ago was the best running back in football. But because of his age, you look and say, okay, they make such a quick turn. They go from 60 to 0 so fast. What are you getting when you're drafting somebody? And are you honestly picking him because of his name and not because of what he's going to do?
That's exactly what people are doing.
And you hit the nail right on the head. It's tough because AP, one of the biggest names as far as running back goes to a team, hopefully may have new life. You saw him last year to where he just struggled and was out with injuries. And so you think that being that his age that he's not going to be able to perform, but he tore his ACL 2 years ago. And, so you don't know what AP is going to be able to do because you think that he still has it because he's the dominant running back.
Even at his age, you're still what if he ends up coming back and running for 1,300 yards?
Exactly. It's not like we haven't seen Mark Ingram get pulled.
Fumbling.
Well, the thing too is, which is crazy, it blows my mind, is Mark Ingram came off one of his best years last year. He had over 1,000 yards, and then they come and get Adrian Peterson, which okay. Then in the NFL draft, they trade up in the 3rd round to draft another running back. So it's what are they doing? Are they just scared because of injuries they may lose, and so they just want to get an extra guy? Are they just bringing in ADP because he's his name and it's going to draw fans to the games and it's going to get, he has that dominance that may be able to push through where Mark Ingram can't? I don't know, and that is just a mess right there. And you don't know who to draft first. I'm thinking Mark Ingram because he's the guy who's done it before. and you know he can do similar maybe to what he did, but then you start thinking, well, they brought in AP. It's not like it's some like just small mid-level running back. That was a top running back, and so it's like they bring him in, and it's just like what, and then they have. It's just kind of a mess to just kind of decipher.
They've always kind of been like that.
Yeah,
like the Saints have always kind of with their running game has always been kind of like.
Well, yeah, but you have Mark Ingram, you know, who's a lead back, and they have like Travis Cadet, or they have Tim Hightower. It's just like these names that like they're mediocre running backs. They don't bring in like an AP.
Don't dare say anything about Tim Hightower.
Oh,
he's a Saint.
Calm down, Roman.
Wait, was
well, not anymore. Not anymore.
But,
He's not a Saint anymore. San Francisco 49ers. Watch out. I mean, you're right, but the thing is that how many times have you been listening in the last 5 years where we're super excited about Kyrie Robinson, we're super excited about Travis Cadet, or we're super excited about this random player,
Deuce McAllister.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been excited about running backs from New Orleans for years now, Reggie Bush. Never Reggie Bush. I mean, like and you don't know because they've basically been trying to fill the Reggie Bush Sproles position for a few years now since they lost Sproles, and so they don't have what seems like they want Kamara to do is be that, but is he going to be that? Is he going to be running the ball? Like you don't know what's going on with them. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, don't draft either one of these guys. Like, don't do it.
Yeah. If you want clarity on who to draft, just don't draft either of them
don't.
until something comes along. Like you think you're gaining value by drafting these guys later and later, but you might not be. That's the issue.
Like if everybody is outrageously smart, they would let these guys hit the open market and wait. But I mean, nobody's going to be able to do it. Nobody's going to be able to do that because it's like, well, do I take this guy or some completely untested free agent? Right. I'll take a shot on one of these guys. But to be completely honest, these guys really don't deserve a roster spot yet because you don't even know what they are.
Yeah. And realistically, they're going in like the 5th or 6th round in a lot of drafts.
Way too early.
That's way too early. So if you can get them locked up, both of them, like in the 10th round or after, I'd be okay with that. But
take a shot on one of the guys.
If you're taking
rounder,
okay, so if you're taking a shot on one, you got to pick only one.
I say Mark Ingram just because I'm scared that AP is going to injure himself.
Why did they bring AP?
I feel like
they bring 2 running backs in.
Yeah. They hate him.
If you
they benched him. Yes. they don't like him. They're ready to move on. I mean, I don't know.
Why not trade him?
They tried, but they failed. They screwed it up. So I mean,
and we were talking like baseball now, just like hitting a home run. I feel like if you're drafting Mark Ingram, you're just trying to advance a runner. Like you're bunting. You're maybe hitting a sacrifice fly. That's Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram is a bunt.
If you're swinging
like that, I want a T-shirt that says that.
If you're swinging for the fences, honestly, probably draft Adrian Peterson. If you're looking, because if something happens to Mark Ingram, they do pull him, or maybe they pull off a trade like early in the season, which is not. It could happen.
Yeah, to that end, they will not bench Adrian Peterson because his name is Adrian Peterson. They will not trade Adrian Peterson. No. Mark Ingram probably should be benched and could possibly be traded.
See, I don't think. I mean, AP is great what he did, but I think that he doesn't hold the value that he does anymore. And I don't think he's going to get
legitimately no. But I think because of his name, he does.
But I don't think. But see, he visited multiple some teams. I don't think that many teams are looking to bring him in to pay him. To be honest with you,
nobody wants to pay him.
Yeah, well, I mean,
can't really say I blame him.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand, and there's every red flag for me as a guy that cannot stand any running back that is older than like 29 and a half. So, I mean, like, I completely agree with you because one of the biggest things is, okay, you know, a lot of these guys have an outrageously good year and then have one year that is, you know, either subpar or a complete disaster, and then that's it. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he went in there, he averaged 1.8 yards per carry those first 2 games and then was done for the season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he exhibited the sign of the downturn and then got hurt. So what's to say that he's going to turn it back up and be able to run for, you know, 4 yards a carry or more?
All right. I would say our final outlook on that is avoid both. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets much clearer than that. Unless one of them falls super late and you want to take a chance.
If one of them gets hurt, then it makes that
some kind of clarity that you
have.
Then you have
before your
something.
draft.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fine. But if it stays the same as it is right now, avoid. Before we end the show, we got one more that we want to do. So let's talk about this one. Try not to make it go too long. Of course, I saved a 4-player one for the very last one. So we have 4 different wide receivers here. Brandon Cooks versus Terrell Pryor versus Sammy Watkins versus Stephon Diggs. I don't know if you really want me to go through all their 8 ADPs, but Brandon Cooks is the highest. Terrell Pryor is right after him. Sammy Watkins are after him. Stephon Diggs a little bit further down. All relatively close. Out of those 4 names, like, does one jump out at you as being a possible elite wide receiver? Like, who do you think can finish the highest, and who do you think can finish the worst? Why don't you rank them, Alex, 1 through 4, best through worst?
Honestly, if I'm going off of pure talent and skill and what I think that their ceiling is, I'm going to go. I will go with Watkins, Pryor, Cooks, and then Diggs. And I think that the reason being that Watkins athletically is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that he has the talent to put up numbers like close to even Calvin Johnson type numbers, where it's just, you know, 1,500 yards. That's the kind of yardage that I think he has the ability to do.
Sure.
And honestly, I think that if he plays to that ability, and if he gets, you know, his quarterback, I mean, VC and I were just looking at stats that, you know, his quarterback actually might be able to put a ball in another wide receiver's
Jared
hands.
Goff, we're talking.
Yes. Jared Goff is actually able to throw it to him and get it to him and put some, you know, put some strength behind the ball.
Mustard on it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that 1,500 yards is crazy, and I think he could distance himself greatly by a couple hundred yards.
Sure.
And I think that Pryor has a great situation. I think that he is an athletic freak as well, and I think that he's going to be able to do that. And both those guys are going to be able to get quite a few catches. Now, where things kind of trail off for me is that you've got the 2 other guys that have just one of those things going for them. Diggs is going to get more catches, and I think that that Cooks is going to have more yards.
Okay.
Because Cooks is one of those guys that gets like 63 catches and then, you know, 1,100 yards. So I just, and it could be just a little bit that I have a vested interest in Watkins, but he has that type of talent that he could be an elite. And I think the other guys are in that kind of second tier that just aren't quite as good as him at playing at their max level.
You see it any differently?
Yes. I think so. My ranking would be Watkins, Diggs, and then Cooks, then Pryor.
Wow. Okay.
But see, those 2 could be easily switched around for me, the Pryor and Cooks. Why I think Diggs is higher. So Sammy Watkins, if healthy, if we're in a perfect world right now scenario, if healthy, I think he can be an elite player. We've seen him do it with Tyrod Taylor, as we all know how Tyrod Taylor's felt around here. But still, though, if Jared Goff can put a game together, and tonight with his preseason game, it looked like he could put something together. So that's kind of exciting. Sammy Watkins could have a decent year and could put up good numbers. Just the hit talent alone of Watkins, I think he's ranked up there. Stephon Diggs, we've seen him have huge games and have some decent games. He was just shy of 1,000 yards, only playing 13 games. So I think if he had 3 more games to go, he can go well over 1,000 yards, and I can easily see him go up to 1,300 yards, which puts him up there, which passed the other 2 receivers. And then you have Brandon Cooks, who is just an explosive guy. But he hits and then he doesn't. He hits and he doesn't. And so if he hits, he's money. If he doesn't, then it just stinks. Mm-hmm. And so, but why I say he's ahead of Terrell Pryor just because Cooks is a pure wide receiver, where Terrell Pryor is kind of transformed over there. We see him in Cleveland. We see what he does. Let's see what he does with a better quarterback as far as more passing. But I can see Terrell Pryor easily taking over Cooks and getting more yardage than him because he's going to get more possessions than Cooks would, just because of the game. So those 2 would easily switch out for me. But that's the ranking I have for him. But I think the best value out of all that is Diggs because of how far down he's going. He's the clear number one wide receiver on there. We've seen him do it with Sam Bradford. Another year under the belt, him staying healthy. I could see him being a top wide receiver.
Well, I mean, isn't that an issue though with him? Is that he gets injured as well?
I don't know
because doesn't he kind of get like he gets weird kind of nagging injuries? It's not even just like he gets hurt. It's kind of he gets like almost like he gets like a turf toe or one of those kind of things that just kind of nags the whole year. So like I don't know. I mean, I can see value in Diggs, and I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself because I was saying, well, in a perfect world, if Jared Goff is able, I think what holds Diggs back is the quarterback play. So, I mean, I think that's something that's gonna, and I'm not saying holds him back from being a good wide receiver. I'm just saying holds him back in that group.
Yeah,
sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Sammy Watkins is the Carlos Hyde of wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Like 100%. We were talking about earlier,
yep.
Sammy Watkins, when he's on the field, he's elite. He puts up huge numbers. But yeah, you got to be on the field though. But the thing that separates these guys from me, I value Watkins and Diggs a little more based on volume alone. I think they both can have huge volume this year because those guys, they catch a ton of balls. That those offenses pass the ball a lot too. And I just think Pryor has probably just upside. I don't think he's going to get a lot of volume, but I think he can go big. And Brandon Cooks, exactly the same thing. Not a lot of volume, but he can go big. So, I mean, I don't see the point in ranking these guys, but I think where you want value is with Watkins and Diggs. And you can get Diggs at great value because he's going way later than these other 3 guys. Watkins, though, has that huge upside that you can get plus volume.
Yeah.
High floor, high ceiling.
And, I mean, like the value on those 2 guys, like you said, I mean, it's actually really good. Where I think the only one that doesn't quite have the value is Cooks because he went to a situation that's like, oh, look, he's with Tom Brady. That's great. But at the same time, it's like, well, but Gronk is still there. Edelman is still there. They spread the ball out a lot. I'm wondering about what happens with that whole situation. Like, who ends up somebody's going to get shortchanged. Like, somebody has to lose out. Somewhere
they're just going to get another championship ring. It doesn't matter anyway. But
But I mean, if Diggs can get more touchdowns, I can see him absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I could see Diggs, like you said, leading those guys in receptions.
Oh, absolutely,
pretty easily.
Yeah,
but I like Watkins the best out of all of them. If you're going, and Watkins is kind of falling now that he's gone to St. Louis, Los Angeles. But if Goff can put it together, we don't want to discount Goff too much yet.
Yeah.
You should be weary, but
when you – I mean, I've harped on it, but when you watch him not understand where the sun sets and he's a quarterback, like quarterbacks are supposed to be smart.
Man, that kind of stuff's confusing for me too, though. Like I get it.
But the thing is that it wasn't like he just made a stupid comment. You're like, oh wow, I'm an idiot. He was like, nobody knows that. No, literally everyone knows.
Oh, jerk off. Well, we'll see how all those ones work out because
he was a rookie last year.
If he can put it together,
he's working with the ones the entire offseason.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's gonna improve.
And
they did not do him anything.
They had a bad coach to have for a rookie like that. I mean, Jeff Fisher just basically promotes mediocrity, and I don't know how, but I mean, it's just like a constant promotion of mediocrity, and that's a hard thing to teach. I mean, Case Keenum was the definition of mediocrity, and it's hard to take a guy and elevate him way past that and make him elite. So.
Yep. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to our 50th episode. This has been a blast. Like, I love this. I wish we could get together more and do them live, but we'll just have to keep going with Google Hangouts until you guys decide to move down to Indy. So, thanks for stopping and listening out. Hop on Twitter, follow us, 4 Horsemen Pod. Send those emails. Like Alex said, if you want to know what his favorite color is, he won't tell anybody unless you send him an email.
Gotta ask.
Kind of a big deal. So
I want to know what his favorite color is.
So
please email him.
I might email myself. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next week. Peace.